welcome to Amphlett Reviews, back another Hong Kong content review, diving back into the world of Hong Kong cinema with the new Radiance release for A Moment of Romance, a really highly regarded movie that's got a first time 4K restoration kind of transfer. Radiance is basically a brand new UK distribution company that's been around for about a year or so now, I want to say. They really are pumping out some really interesting titles, a lot of foreign cinema, a lot of Italian-based kind of movies, Japanese, diving into Hong Kong cinema now, a lot of American movies, a lot of this kind of smaller kind of, indie kind of titles that don't usually get kind of 5-star treatments, and they definitely got quite a unique kind of selling point. And I have two previous releases from them with Miami Blues, which I thought was a great film. It's really fun. A lot of exclusive new extras as well. Blu-ray kind of premiere for the UK, so they are distributing some exclusive Blu-ray editions, and they also have Yakuza's Graveyard, which also is a World Blu-ray first exclusive. So they are really kind of pumping out some very unique kind of titles, ones that don't usually get kind of the treatment that they probably should deserve. In fact, they are a US-based release as well, with this being a kind of region A and B kind of locked Blu-ray edition is also a very good sign. The fact that everyone can enjoy these films and not another one being locked away in the kind of UK kind of market. This film is very highly regarded in terms of a brand new exclusive 4K release, and this has some really great extra features. The packaging I think is really fantastic. I love the kind of the colour scheme, as you can see there. There you go. And you get a really thick booklet which diving into kind of the making of and the behind the scenes and what kind of movies were being made during this time. Audio commentary from the director, and you also get In Love and Danger, Hong Kong Cinema Throughout a Moment of Romance, a new visual essay by critic and Asian cinema expert. So without further ado, let's dive into the world of A Moment of Romance. A Moment of Romance, released in 1990, directed by Benny Chang, who has recently passed away about a year or so ago now, very tragically. And his last film he did was Raging Fire with Donnie Yen, which was a kind of a big, massive kind of film that really kind of laid the way for a new kind of age of kind of Hong Kong cinema, hopefully within Donnie Yen's career and within this kind of new kind of chapter that we're starting to see forming now, with Donnie Yen get a lot more opportunity to do kind of more kind of experimental movies, do sequels to movies that you wouldn't usually expect, and to really push the envelope again to what Hong Kong cinema is all about and what can do without relying on these kind of really over expensive massive CGI movies they seem to be pumping out recently within a lot of modern Hong Kong movies. So Raging Fire was definitely a good kind of step in that direction. He's also directed a few Jackie Chan movies, I believe, as well. Robin B. Hood was quite good, I quite enjoyed that one, and he's done Who Am I as well, I believe, and quite a few others and his kind of filmography. This one's quite an interesting one as well, because this is produced by Johnny To, and I believe he also produced the second one and also the third one, and he also directed the third one, In the Moment of Romance 3, which are all three very different films, have a lot of the same actors in it, I believe, but three individual kind of storylines. The third one is set within during the 1940s, kind of, I think during the war kind of thing during that time, and it actually has both these actresses come back playing different characters during a kind of 1940s kind of environment, directed by Johnny To, which is something I'm definitely going to be checking out for sure, and to see what that has to offer. But I know this one is really highly regarded. I know this one has got a really big attention, and as always in terms of these reviews, I go into it blind, not knowing much about it. Just look at little clips here and there. I'll look at kind of, what people are saying, what kind of comments, what kind of the impression of this film I'm trying to go into. And I go into these films with a hopeful nature and a really kind of surprise, like, yeah, I'm going to get something really great, something really awesome, and, keep my expectations on a certain level and not be swayed by kind of like, the bad or the good reviews, and just kind of hope for a really great film that I can just add to the collection and kind of have another slice of that kind of really awesome Hong Kong cinema. And unfortunately, A Moment of Romance wasn't one of them. This film is definitely in the line of those kind of recent ones I've been watching, with As Tears Go By, Wong Kar-wai film, and As My Heart Is Eternal Rose, also in that kind of same kind of ballpark. Very similar movies, heroic bloodshed movies, art house style, very kind of stylistic, very kind of bloodshed, violent kind of, shootout moments, high passion, high tension in moments and places. But all three of these films approach it very differently, and will have the kind of the same kind of key kind of blueprint of the idea of one be a crime movie, a kind of bloodshed kind of crime thriller aspect, you know, Yakuza, gangsters, whatever you want to say, kind of tryouts, and also the other side of it, which is the romantic side, which is a character falling in love and, you know, putting it all on the line. And funny enough saying that, all three of these films have essentially the same type of ending, which is quite funny, have the same type of middle act and have the same type of first act. They all have the same kind of beats, but they're approached very differently with three different directors, three different takes, three different types of storylines, with all around crime and romance. I'm wondering, Andrew, why didn't you get much from this one? Unfortunately, I just felt this film was very unengaging, and that's a real shame. And it's when I'm finding the film boring and I'm not invested in the kind of which is the crux of the film, the love aspect, which is what the film's trying to sell you on. It takes you out completely out of the film. And unfortunately with this one, I thought the romantic kind of chemistry, romantic aspect between Andy Lau, which is returning again, playing the same type of character that he usually does, I didn't buy it. I didn't get it. I didn't think there was anything there in terms of that chemistry. I don't know what the film was really trying to go for. I mean, Andy Lau's character is a biker character. He's someone who is obligated to this kind of, you know, tryout kind of gang, the Five Brothers, and he has to do this kind of bank heist kind of situation where he's the getaway driver, very similar to kind of Drive in that sense, Ryan Gosling, and he's basically kidnaps a woman in a kind of, you know, just trying to escape the police, and basically the woman sort of fall in love with him in a weird way, even though he plays the kind of the bad boy kind of, you know, asshole kind of character, that someone who doesn't care, someone who's in this life and looking out for number one kind of thing. And, you know, this woman gets infatuated with him, and she is someone who is so out of her depth in terms of being this kind of very rich kind of woman, who's someone who is only known one kind of life kind of style, and she's never really interacted with many of her friends, or she never had a boyfriend from the looks of it, and she's being sent away soon to Canada to go and kind of study at this kind of really rich kind of school, really wealthy kind of school, and she has a very kind of specific type of lifestyle. Again, it's like kind of yin and yang kind of situation where he is from the rough, tough kind of streets, kind of looking after number one, and he's had to kind of learn things the hard way, and she's from the wealthy, rich family where she's kind of infatuated with the bad boy across the road who's kidnapped her. And similar to what I saw in some of the reviews, which I thought was quite funny, this is the most kind of like sexiest version of Stockholm Syndrome that I think I've ever seen. And unfortunately, I just didn't buy it. I just didn't get it. It didn't work for me. Their kind of romantic kind of chemistry, their connection throughout the film. The film is trying so hard to really sell you on this kind of, you know, longing for each other, and there's something more deep and something more darker in the edge. And I get what the film is trying to go for, but it does not work. Granted, the positive of the film, I would say, is obviously the way the film looks. Stylistically, the way the film is put together is beautiful. It looks absolutely phenomenal. The 4K transfer on this edition looks really good as well. There's a lot of really good attention to detail in terms of the kind of the violent moments are great. The kind of thing, the fights and the kind of shootouts, even the way the colors look on screen look amazing. Even some of the more cheesier kind of editing moments is pretty fun. But when I'm not invested in the love story, melodrama, more kind of, you know, cheesy, more kind of, you know, cringe level kind of. And it doesn't help as well that I've seen this type of story been done elsewhere. And this is something I've said in other reviews as well, in terms of the Wushu movies, hero bloodshed movies, you know, different types of kind of subgenres within Hong Kong cinema. You know, when you're seeing a lot of them in one kind of a session, or you're seeing different levels of styles and filmmaking and different unique kind of takes on these kind of little subgenres, you know, you're going to get the bar is going to be raised in a certain level. And I'm not to say that this film is, you know, voided because I've seen something better. It's just what this film has to offer and the characters has to offer, it doesn't work. Even the ending of the film I felt was very kind of like, you know, typical, and a bit kind of like, oh, we have to do it because this is the blueprint. It feels very much like this is 101 textbook level kind of thing, you know, in terms of the blueprint of these kind of romantic hero bloodshed movies, and it doesn't add anything really unique to the table that compared to other movies that have already been announced. This is released in 1990, and by this point there's already quite a few of these types of movies already released. And overall, A Momentary Romance was a bit of a misfire for me personally. As mentioned, on a technical level, I thought it was actually stellar. I thought the new 4K transfer, I thought the brand new Blu-ray edition release is absolutely fantastic. I love the booklet, I love the new documentary that's on, the new 23-minute documentary exploring this kind of genre that was going on during the kind of the 90s. And I get everything around the film in terms of what it's trying to go for. However, I just didn't feel emotionally invested. I didn't care about these characters. I didn't care about the scenario that these two characters are into. I thought it was very textbook in terms of just the character placements, and unfortunately it just didn't work for me personally. So that's been my thoughts and opinions. What are your thoughts on A Moment of Romance? What are your thoughts on the sequel movies, the individual kind of anthology based movies? Are they better than this one? Do you prefer this one the best? Thoughts and opinions, guys, please comment down below. So in the meantime, guys, Amphlett Reviews, signing out.